The Pittsburgh Penguins went into a showdown with the Carolina Hurricanes. Wow, this is going to be interesting. Meanwhile, in the PWHL, the search rather race for Walter heats up. The Penguin is gone in Miami. Who else is gone? Plus, Weekly in Sports hit a milestone on St. Patrick's Day. What milestone did we hit? Welcome to Weekly in Sports. Season 2, Episode 2 starts right now. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fan's perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Weekly in Sports, the podcast. My name is Scott McGregor. Welcome to episode 2 of season number 2 of Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Weekly in Sports. Welcome in. I am Scott McGregor, your host of the show. On today's program, we are talking Walter Cup race check-in. The latest around the PWHL, the race for Lord Stanley is also heating up. Plus, the Penguin, Jalen Waddle, is no longer a Miami Dolphin. And the race to 162 games is about to begin. Opening day, by the time you hear this show, will be here. So before we wrap things up on this show, we will let you know what the first week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to Monday, looks like in Major League Baseball. Speaking of which, let's get this party started. Talking about, as we lead things off, we talk about the latest in PWHL land. Right now, the PWH gearing up for a showdown between the Seattle Torrent and the Montreal Victoire. That game will be final by the time you hear this program on March 28, 2026. But most recently, PWHL Player Safety Committee has taken some disciplinary action as of the 2 games that played out yesterday. But what was their disciplinary action? Let's find out. Minnesota's Peyton Anderson has been suspended a game. Minnesota's Britta C. and Montreal's Maggie Fluharte and Boston's Lauren Gabe each receive fines of 4 players. Only 1 player of the 4 was suspended 1 game. As of yesterday, March 18th, 2026, the PWHL Professional Women's Hockey League announced supplemental discipline following 4 different reviews from 2 different games by the PWHL Player Safety Committee. Minnesota Frost forward Peyton Anderson has been suspended 1 forward. Britta C.S. of Minnesota has been fined $250. Montreal Victoire defender Maggie Fluharte also has been fined $250. $250. And Boston Fleet forward Lauren Gable, I should say. There we go. I got that. I got it that time. Maybe not the last name, but I got the first name. Has also been fined $250. The incident involving Peyton Anderson, was an unpenalized illegal body check that happened at 8 minutes 38 seconds of the 3rd period in Sunday's game against the New York Sirens. The Player Safety Committee determined that Anderson took a poor angle of approach with her opponent in a vulnerable position, exhibited no attempt to play the puck, and delivered a hit with significant force that made some contact with the head of her opponent. This was in violation of PWHL Rule 52.1, body checking. This was Anderson's first incident reviewed by the Player Safety Committee in her 19-game career. There was a video with an explanation from the player safety, but to respect the wishes of the PWHL, as we are not in contact with them, we will not play the video. Britta CS has been fined as a result of an unpenalized cross-checking incident that occurred at 13 minutes 49 seconds of the third period in Sunday's game against New York. The Player Safety Committee determined that Britta raised her stick. Britta CS raised her stick with both arms and struck her opponent while she was in a vulnerable position with a forceful cross-checking motion that was in violation of PWHL Rule 60.1, cross-checking. This is the fourth time that Britta has received supplementary discipline in her PWHL career, having previously been issued 2 one-game suspensions during the 2024-2025 regular season and a 1-game suspension in the 2025 playoffs. Maggie Fluharte has been fined as a result of an illegal body check that occurred at 7 minutes 35 seconds of the third period in Sunday's game against Boston that resulted in a major penalty and a game misconduct pursuant to PWHL Rule 52.3 and 52.5 as rule, respectively. The Player Safety Committee determined that Flaherty, delivered a force hit with speed and opposite directional force on the puck or delivering a hit with a parallel positioning. This is the second incident of supplemental discipline in Flaherty's career, with the first resulting in a 2-game suspension last season. Alrighty. Lauren Gable has been fined as a result of her unpenalized actions following the hit delivered by Meg during a gathering that occurred in front of the Boston bench. Player Safety determined that Lauren Gable, who was standing at her bench off the ice, reached out and pushed an opponent on the ice while the officials were disseculating the altercation. This violates PWHL Rule 57, interference, and Rule 77 on sportsmanlike conduct. This was Gable's first incident reviewed by the Player Safety Committee. The Player Safety Committee of the PWHL monitors all games and is responsible for providing independent review and recommendations on supplementary discipline, chaired by Jana Heffert, PWHL Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations, and the committee also includes Vice Chair Chris Burkett, PWHL Vice President of Labor Relations, and Player Safety Cassie Campbell-Pascal, PWHL Special Advisor, Megan Duggan, Special Consultant to PWHL Hockey Operations, Mike Murphy, a longtime NHL executive and former VP of Hockey Operations, and of course, Matt McMahon, a member of the NHL's Player Safety Department. All of these men and women make up the PWHL Player Safety Committee. Now, I didn't really watch any of these games, but I want to ask you right now, the fans, as we stop the share for a second on this, specifically on the discipline sent out by the PWHL for the following players. Let me just remind you, the only player right now that was suspended one was Minnesota Frost forward Peyton Anderson, the other Minnesota forward Britta CS, along with Montreal and Boston players Maggie Flaherty and Lauren Gable have received fines of $250. Now, I don't want to talk about money when it comes to the fine, but do you think Peyton Anderson of the Minnesota Frost deserved more games other than one? And if so, how many games do you think Peyton should have gotten for her actions that earned her a 1 game suspension? In case you missed it, the incident involving Anderson was an unpenalized illegal body check that occurred at 8 minutes 38 seconds of the third period in Sunday's game against the New York Sirens. And the Players' Safety Committee determined that Anderson took a poor angle of approach with her opponent in a vulnerable position, exhibited no attempt to play the puck, and delivered a hit with a significant force that made some contact with the head of her opponent. This was in violation of PWHL Rule 52.1, body checking. So because Anderson violated this rule, do you think she should have got 1 game? Do you think she should have got 3 games? How many games do you think Peyton Anderson of the Minnesota Frost should have gotten suspended for? Is 1 game enough? Do you think it should be more? That's my question. Moving on, as we continue talking PWHL for the opening moments of our show, the PWHL has recently had games in their schedule, and as the race to Walter Cup return continues, I should say, as of late, since St. Patrick's Day, when the Toronto Scepters defeated the Boston Fleet by a final score of, we have had final scores of 5-0 Minnesota over the Ottawa Charge and 5-2 Vancouver over the New York Sirens. Tonight, and by the time you hear this, however, it will be final by this time. But tonight, the PWHL presents the Montreal Victoire and the Seattle Torrent in action. Then we have on Saturday, Seattle taking on Boston. Vancouver will take on Minnesota. That's a Saturday doubleheader. We will have that game for you as part of a little Sunday double trouble. What does that mean? Find out a little bit later in our show when we talk about what's coming up for sports for beginners in terms of post-game coverage. Then again, down the stretch, we've got Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver, and Boston. Minnesota taking on the Victoire on the 25th. That is also a doubleheader. Seattle and the Sirens going head-to-head as well on that day. By the time you hear all of this, we will be getting ready for opening day of the MLB 2020 season, and we are going to talk baseball in a little bit. But rounding it out, because by the time you hear the program, the PWHL will be getting ready for a Toronto versus Boston showdown. Scepters, Fleet, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, March 20th. Can't wait for that. All right, time to take a quick timeout. When we come back on Weekly in Sports, Season 2, Episode 2, we will get you a look at the PWHL standings. A little later, time permitting, we'll get you a look at the NHL standings and what's on tap over the course of the week. Again, this show is dropping next Thursday, March 26, 2026. So a lot of the action we bring up right now will be final by the time you hear this program. Want to also remember to let you know that we are accepting shoutouts of the month for the month of March, April, May, June, July. Well, July with the exception of the month of July because that is MLB All-Star break time. And of course, all the way up till November, we will be accepting it and continue to accept it on our program. We will be doing the podcast shoutouts of the month, or as we would call them, the shoutouts of the week, coming up in the middle portion of our show. But we are coming up to our halfway point of the program. In our middle part, which is actually coming up next, we will talk PWHL standings, where we stand heading into the game in question that begins tonight between Seattle and Montreal. And of course, this is at the time of this recording, by the way, the game that's getting going. There is no game by the time the show drops that will be going on Thursday. but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We will figure that all out when we get there. Anyways, we are going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, PWHL standings, where we sit heading into Torrent and Victoire. Plus, we hit a milestone on St. Patrick's Day for Weekly in Sports. Find out what that is next. And I'll give you my thoughts on some of the new accusations from the Buffalo Bills and the trade from Miami to Denver regarding Miami former wide receiver, Jalen Waddle. All of that coming up when we continue. Stick with us.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Where we have fun and engaging conversations
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Welcome back, folks, to Weekly in Sports, episode 2. We kind of butchered that when we were doing the opening segment of the show, which we did a show overview, and then jumped right in to our coverage of PWHL action. The Women's Hockey League has handed out a suspension to Minnesota's Peyton Anderson. The question that I posed, and you will be able to answer with your thoughts on it. We're all entitled to our own opinion. It will be in a poll. How many games do you think Peyton Anderson of the Minnesota Frost should have gotten for her unpenalized actions in Sunday's game against the New York Sirens, which is where the incident occurred, and she violated a rule as to why she was suspended one game? Do you think it should have been more than a game, or is one game enough? Let us know what you think. With that said, shoutouts of the month coming up in the next few minutes as we approach our halfway point of the program. But before we can go there, we have a special celebrational thing to celebrate. We haven't put it out on many of the platforms, especially not on the website yet, but I posted on the Sports for Beginners Facebook page on St. Patrick's Day. Well, actually, it was after St. Patrick's Day, but anyways, that's besides the point, that we had eclipsed a milestone of 50 streams and downloads. Oh, and by the way, we did the same thing today at the time we are recording it. So congratulations to us. 50 streams, 50 downloads. What a day for Weekly in Sports. First on St. Patrick's Day, we get that same kind of thing. And then today, I get notified, while I'm on Wi-Fi rather, I get notified that we have the same kind of milestone. Not bad for Weekly in Sports, which is just starting out. And we haven't had any shout-outs, or rather, any guests since Weekly in Sports first became a podcast. But we still want to thank all our contributors who contributed when we had this as a combined podcast available on Sports for Beginners. We want to thank Ali, host of the Ali Musa Show, formerly known as Broadcast Map. We want to thank our other contributors that contribute on Sports for Beginners, like the lovely Erica Lindsay Ayala. I want to make sure I say that correctly. And we also thank Hunter Hoodies. We thank our brother my brother, I should say, and host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, Thomas McGregor, for his contributions as well. He actually is one of the men behind what will be returning soon to the podcast, as it's currently under the Sports for Beginners music and messages for intro and outro. But we thank Thomas for his contributions to our intro and outro. Got to figure out how we're going to run it with the music. Maybe we'll just do a quick station ID from Thomas to end the show and begin the show. That's something for Thomas and I to discuss, but still grateful for his contributions to our show and grateful for you, the listeners, for streaming and downloading the show. Again, right now, besides YouTube, you can find Weekly in Sports on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So be sure to check it out. And if you are on YouTube listening, or rather watching the show, you don't have to be listening to the show, watching the show. You can still be listening and doing something else. But if you are liking what you are hearing, all you got to do is click like if you like what you're listening to, click subscribe if you really like it, maybe put in a comment or two. And of course, we invite you to tell all of your friends so we can get this podcast as well as Sports for Beginners into as many ears as possible. And we will keep things rolling the best that we can. What an accomplishment for the podcast. What an accomplishment it was. Oh, and by the way, in the first year of doing the podcast officially as a podcast for Weekly in Sports, on June 11th, 2025, last year, 50 streams and downloads. And last year in June, we eclipsed that milestone of 10 streams and downloads. But onto a more interesting thing to bring up. Now that we've talked about the celebration there, celebrating the milestone, which I'm very, very proud of what we were able to do there. Very, very proud of it. It is time to take a look at where we sit heading into the current games that by the time you hear this program will be final. And then we're going to transition, while I'm not on a shared screen, we are going to transition to baseball for a little bit, as we had some breaking news. Trey Yesavage will start the 2026 Major League Baseball season for the Blue Jays on the IL, so he will not pitch for Toronto at the start of the year. Speaking of the Blue Jays, they are currently leading their spring training game that they are currently playing right now against the New York Yankees. They are currently leading that game over the New York Yankees in the bottom of the 8th inning. Here we go, PWHL, let's talk. Last time we talked, Boston was the top dog. Well, guess what? They are now the top dogs in the league. The Minnesota Frost, the defending Walter Cup champions, both in the inaugural season and in season 2 of PWHL hockey, are right there at number 1 in the league with 39 points. Boston also with 39 points, but the records speak for themselves. Minnesota with a record 10-3-3-4. Boston with a record 9-5-2-4. Minnesota is top dog at number 1. And in the third spot, we have the Montreal Victoire at 36 points, just 3 points behind Boston and Minnesota. Their record 9-4-1-5. Toronto in at number 4, 31 points on the year. So Toronto is 8-1-5-8 compared to Montreal 9-4-1-5. Boston 9-5-2-4. Minnesota 10-3-3-4. It was a 6-team league 2 years ago when the league first opened up. I got rid of Minnesota there. All right. With 19 points and currently sitting in last place in the league, we have the Seattle Torrent at record of 5-1-2-11. So they're going to need some big They're going to need some big wins to go their way the rest of the way if they want any opportunity in their expansion season to get a glimpse at what competing for the Walter Cup is really about. Vancouver sitting at number 7, 24 points, just 3 points behind the New York Sirens. Record for the Golden Eyes is 6-1-4-9. The Torrent record is 5-1-2-11. Sirens in place number 6 in the league with 27 points, 1 point behind the Ottawa Charge. They are at a record of 8-0-3-10. The Sirens are. Ottawa record 5-6-1-9. 3 points actually behind Toronto at 28. Let's see. Yeah, 28. That's 3 points. Toronto is still ahead by 3 points to Ottawa's placement in the 5th spot. New York placing in number 6 with 27 points. They are actually 1 point behind Ottawa. We do have a tie for first place, so Boston and Minnesota are technically tied for first place, but Minnesota has 1 win better than Boston. Both Boston and Minnesota and Vancouver each have 10 games remaining. Toronto has 8 games, remaining. They have played 22 of their games. Ottawa and New York have played 21 games, so they have 9 games left on the year. 11 games remaining still for Seattle. They have yet to play their 20th game of the season, as do the Montreal Victoire. So by the time you hear this program, both teams will be down to 10 games left in the season. The teams that right now have Toronto with 8 left in the season, Ottawa with 9, New York also with 9 games left, and 3 teams that have 10 games remaining. Montreal and Seattle will join those teams. Minnesota, Boston, and Vancouver, all with 10 games left on the year. In the PWHL, only the top 4 teams advance to the postseason. And right now, the top seed, which does get the opportunity to decide who they want to play in the first round of the playoffs, is the defending Walter Cup champion, Minnesota Frost, which means whomever they do not choose, right now it would be Toronto and Montreal slotting in to those final 2 spots in the playoffs. If Minnesota was to choose Montreal, we would have a Toronto-Boston matchup in the 2026 Walter Cup playoffs. And it is also the 3rd season in PWHL history. But for Vancouver and Seattle, their first season in the league. And we have been getting reports that the PWHL will be expanding next season, but we still don't know yet where they will be expanding to. So there is still questions surrounding that. Okay, folks, we're off a shared screen. Let's go into our wraparound of this segment, which is a baseball segment. We mentioned that Trey Yesavage is going to start the season on the IL for the Blue Jays. And we also mentioned the Blue Jays are in action right now. They've now wrapped that up and they have shut out the Yankees not to quote Big Papi, David Ortiz, but to honor Big Papi. The Yankees lose. I know it's not the regular season, but when the Blue Jays beat the Yankees, we always like to do the Yankees lose. Actually, Big Papi likes to do it. So I want to honor David Ortiz, also known as Big Papi, for such an interesting line. But then again, you gotta take what you can get, especially as we get closer to the start of the season for 2025, 2026. We also did receive some breaking news outside of baseball action. As many of you Blue Jay fans know, I'm wearing a Penguins hat right now, but that is besides the point right now. Buck Martinez, longtime Blue Jays analyst and voice of the Toronto Blue Jays on TV, also known as a player and former manager, will be inducted into what the Blue Jays are calling, coming in August, the Hall of Excellence. Yep, that's right. Coming in August, a new Hall of Excellence will be displayed on the 100 level in the right field concourse. We will leave a link in the description to the Blue Jays X page so you can see the video for yourself confirming the news from Blue Jays president Mark Shapiro. Keegan Matheson, shout out to Keegan, reports, for decades the level of excellence has represented the best of the best of the Blue Jays. This year, that will be transformed into the Hall of Excellence, and it's getting one new member. Buck Martinez will be the first person inducted into the Hall of Excellence in a ceremony on August 2026, where the hall itself will be open to fans. Martinez will join the 11 Blue Jay legends whose names are on the level of excellence, who will then be moved into the Hall of Excellence alongside him. Those names include Paul Beeston, George Bell, Joe Carter, Carlos Delgado, Cito Gaston, Pat Gielik, Roy Halladay, Dave Steve, Tony Fernandez, and number 19, Jose Bautista. That was to honor one of the best guys to, in my opinion at least, run the PA announcing at Rogers Center. Shout out to the one and only Tim Langton. Jose Bautista, George Bell, Joe Carter, Tom Cheek, Carlos Delgado, Tony Fernandez, Cito Gaston, Pat Gielik, Dave Steve, and Roy Halladay. And now, in the summer of 2026, welcome to the level of excellence, now known as the Hall of Excellence as of this coming season, Blue Jays voice broadcaster Buck Martinez. President and CEO of the Blue Jays, Mark Shapiro, shout out to Mark, said, quote, "The Hall of Excellence is a meaningful way for fans to connect with the individuals who have achieved organizational greatness and whose contributions have been lifelong memories and shaped Blue Jays baseball for generations. Buck has been one of the defining voices of the Blue Jays, and his passion, integrity, and unwavering commitment to this organization embody everything the Hall of Excellence represents. Honoring Buck's legacy in our 50th season is a privilege and a moment that reflects the profound connection he has built with fans across Canada. First of all, congratulations, Buck. Well deserved. And I'm going to take some opportunity here as we roll on here, and we are kind of getting into our closing time here. It is 3:45 p.m. Eastern time, Eastern Daylight Time, as we are in the daylight time zone, but that's besides the point. To honor Buck and his induction into the Hall of Fame, swing and a drive. This is deep. This is 50. I want to do my own version of Buck calling a Jose Bautista home run, Bautista's 50th of the career, and I honestly think this is a very well-deserved honor for a guy who has been in this business as a manager, a player, and for a long time since I've been alive, because I wasn't alive when he was playing or being the manager, being the voice of the Toronto Blue Jays. Congratulations, Buck. Looking forward to the ceremony, and I'm looking forward to the introduction of the Hall of Excellence. By the way, this last February, nearly 45 years after Martinez was traded to the Blue Jays, he announced his retirement from the broadcast booth with Sportsnet. Buck said in a statement, and I'll end off with this: "Thank you for embracing me and welcoming my family and me in a way that has made us feel like we are part of yours. I will dearly miss my working partners, the leadership at Rogers, and the Toronto Blue Jays baseball club, all of whom made it so much fun to be at the ballpark talking about the game I've loved for my whole life. As to the fans, specifically, I will miss the selfies, the handshakes, and the welcoming smiles. I will never forget any of those, nor the unwavering support and generosity which has meant more than words can say. I look forward to continuing to root for the Blue Jays along with you, and you'll always be in my heart. My sincerest appreciation to all of you. Now fans will have another opportunity to show Martinez just how much he's meant to them over the years and for generations to come. Fans will be able to learn about Martinez's legacy in the Hall of Excellence. Wow. But I mean, there's more announcements coming in the coming weeks. And this one right now just touched my heart, so I gotta bring it up. All right, folks, that unfortunately means even though we got into that, we are not able to bring out more from MLB, but that's okay because before we wrap the show up, we will touch on MLB, specifically what's in store when we get going next Thursday. But for two teams, I should say, they get going this coming Wednesday. Find out who those are in a segment to come. We are going to take a break. When we come back, time now for podcast shoutouts of the month. We continue on Weekly in Sports, episode 2 of season 2, our end of the month March program in just a moment. Shoutouts of the month, where the NHL standings stand, and we had to kind of cut the football content as well. So I promised you we were going to do that, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to do it today. So I will try to bring it up on the next month's show. That's okay. I know it'll be old news by that time, but there was a lot for us to get to. I guess my overall thoughts are the Penguins going to Denver. And I actually like this move by Denver, but we shall see how it goes. We'll get into Buffalo conversations if I can get on with Ryan Talbot. And maybe then we'll talk, even if it's on Sports for Beginners and not Weekly in Sports, we'll talk about the accusations, the guys who have stood out in this past season, the guys who have been traded, and what the upcoming season for Buffalo looks like. As for Weekly in Sports, we'll get a look at the NHL standings when we come back, and we get podcast shoutouts of the month coming up. And then after a quick 30-second break, with a word from a listener from Sports for Beginners, and of course, a word from the good folk over at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. We'll tell you what's on tap for the April program of Weekly in Sports, our third month and third episode of Weekly in Sports. How many more are we going to get to? Well, we're going to do a baseline of 9 and see how it goes. This is number 2. We'll see if we can get to 9. We'll see. With that said, we'll take a break and be right back.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out The Allie and McCara Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealliandmccarashow.ca.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Allie and McCara Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. Two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Welcome back to Weekly in Sports, episode 2. We've celebrated a milestone with Weekly in Sports. We have celebrated breaking news regarding Buck Martinez, and we'll touch on that more in a moment. But we have some opening day stuff to get to One of these games, by the time you hear this show, will be in the books. Before we can get to that, let's go share the screen one more time and take a look at the NHL standings. And while we're there, we might as well prepare you for the night ahead. Nah, you know what? We're just going to do the standings. We'll do the standings. But I will say this, it was a pretty good game last night between Pittsburgh and Carolina. Penguins get a point on the night against the Hurricanes, unfortunately, are not able to get the 2 extra points that they need. And here's a look at the Metro standings here. New York smack dab at number 8. We got the Devils at number 7. Capitals 6. Flyers 5. Blue Jackets are in 4th. The Islanders a point, I should say, behind Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is now at 84 points. Carolina at 92 points, which means they are 8 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins, 9 points ahead of the New York Islanders. In the conference, let's go to conference for a second. The Pittsburgh Penguins did get some help as the Ottawa Senators dropped to 10th in the league. We're going to need some help from the Ottawa Senators, Penguins fans, tonight, as well as the Winnipeg Jets, who we play tomorrow, I should say Saturday. We also would like a Red Wings win over the Canadiens, and that is a tiebreaker that the Penguins have. Sorry, the first tiebreaker, which I believe the Habs have, I should say. Well, we shall see. Anyways, a Red Wings win would be great against Montreal. And we're also rooting for the blue and white. We're rooting for the Rangers to take down the Jackets. Penguins picked up a point against Carolina. Had they picked up the extra 2 points, Carolina would still be at 90 points. Well, actually, they would be at like 91 points. But the Penguins would have 86 points, and they would have hopped the Montreal Canadiens for 4th in the Eastern Conference. Right now, number 1 in the conference in the East is Carolina, 2 points above the Buffalo Sabres, but still some work to be done for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they're in a pretty good spot. I know it might not matter much to Maple Leaf fans, but you guys are not quite bottom of the barrel yet. Florida and the Rangers would have to hop you for you guys to be bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you guys are technically bottom of the barrel, but you're not dead last. You're like 3rd last in the conference here in the Eastern Conference. And over in the West, 98 points the Avalanche have right now, but Dallas is 2 points behind them. Right now, the teams that are really going to need wins are Calgary, Vancouver, Chicago, St. Louis, Winnipeg, Nashville, San Jose, maybe Los Angeles, all of those teams in between. Right now, best team in the league, still the Avalanche, even after the game on Monday, when they got the crap beat out of them by the Penguins, and one known member of Evgeny Malkin doing most of the damage, 2 goals, well, actually 2 assists and 1 goal, I believe. I'll have to double check that to make sure I get it right with Evgeny Malkin. No, I had it right. 2 goals on the day for Evgeny Malkin. And I do believe 1 assist happened. Yes, 1 assist in the game for Gino, but he did pretty much most of the damage against Colorado in the first matchup between the Penguins and the Avalanche, which was on a Monday night. And I can't wait for these 2 teams to clash in Pittsburgh. I can't wait. Good news, Penguin fans. You don't have to wait long. Well, you have to wait a weekend. You have to wait till after the games on the weekend, but you won't have to wait till opening day of the MLB season. Right after the 2 games on the weekend for the Penguins, we're right back at it with the Avalanche. All right, folks, it is time for the podcast shoutouts of the month. And this will lead us into our 30-second timeout for a word from a listener from Sports for Beginners. Since I am the founder of Sports for Beginners and Weekly in Sports, I will allow this to happen. And of course, we will hear a word from the good folk over at Sienna T Radio. But to get to that, let's kick it off, our shout outs of the month, by shouting out the good folk at Sienna T Radio, who do an excellent job with what they have going for us in terms of their programming. Shout outs go also to Makara and Ali, who has contributed to the podcast both weekly in sports and sports for beginners. I know our logo in the background says sports for beginners, but it's actually a weekly in sports show for this one. But that is besides the point. Point is, we thank Ali for his contributions to our program and hope that he does great work with Makara as well as Sienna as a producer for Sienna T Radio. And you guys are, I probably can't count how many times I've used their slogan, but Sienna, when I talk with Sienna, she loves it when I do this kind of thing. I know I've said it a few times already, but I'll say it once here for the shout out. Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. All right, moving on. The great folk at Locked On Podcasts have done an excellent job with what they are doing. I really enjoy listening to them. Trying hard to listen to as many shows as possible. I'm kind of behind. I'm also kind of behind with things when it comes down to the Extra Point Show or the people at UGR. I don't worry too much about the Penguins Radio Network because some of the shows I tune into on the podcast, it's just to catch things I might have missed in their post-game show, or if I miss the shows like the coaches show, the GM show, all that jazz, I can catch up on that, or catch up on a few things that I did not hear when I tuned in live, or might have missed when I tuned in live. All right, one of the biggest shout outs goes to you, the listeners, for our shout outs of the month. And of course, if you would like to get in on the action with a podcast recommendation that you would like us to check out, like the Nikki and Bree show, for example, or the Ali and Makara show, formerly known as Ali and Makara's Books, let us know it by email, sportsforbeginnerspodcast80. And of course, you can let us know in the comments below on the Weekly in Sports with Scott YouTube channel and through the Weekly in Sports podcast feed on Spotify. One big final shout out goes to the folk at Connect for Life and Voices for Ability Radio, also known in short form as V4A Radio. If they had not pushed myself, Thomas, or Ali, or anybody that we met in our broadcasting course that we were in to check this out, I don't think Weekly in Sports, Sports for Beginners, or On the Ice and Behind the Benches, or even what is now called the Ali Musa show would have existed. So big shout out to Melanie, Sean, Mark, and all those that Thomas and I have met, as well as a huge shout out to our contributor, Ali, who has contributed for most of the podcast before Weekly in Sports even became an actual podcast, when it was a podcast in combined format on Sports for Beginners. We will take a break. When we return, the lineup for opening day 2026 and what's on tap on the end of the month April program. Could we be talking some WWE? Will we talk WNBA? Will we talk NHL? WWE maybe. NHL? Oh yes, we will be talking that. NFL? Probably. WNBA? We'll see. But definitely in store for one of the upcoming programs coming up in May. So be sure you hang around with us. And we will definitely be talking PWHL on the next show. Find out what's really in store when we wrap things up after this listener word, from a listener on Sports for Beginners and probably Weekly in Sports, as well as a word from the good folk at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. Back after that to wrap this up.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
Welcome back to Weekly in Sports, the podcast, episode 2 of season 2, end of the month March program, our second month of 2026 programming. In our third month before we get to the opening day week of March 20th, 29th. We'll touch on a couple of games, mainly Wednesday to Sunday. Want to take an opportunity to let you know what's to come on Weekly in Sports. End of the month April program, our third month of 2026 coverage. So what's in store? Well, we've been talking about the Walter Cup a lot lately, especially since the PWHL first began. So expect that to not really come to an end, but expect that talk to continue into the May program as we talk playoffs in our April program, mainly getting you set for the PWHL playoffs 2026. Plus, we're going to go courtside talking WNBA and in particular, Toronto Tempo, or maybe WNBA in general. We'll see. And it's first month and a half, I should say, recap of the 2026 MLB regular season. We'll get you a look at where things stand after a month and a half of baseball, I should say, in the 2026 MLB 162 game regular season. And we will also keep an eye on the 2026 NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Will the Penguins make it to the playoffs this year? It's looking pretty good right now, but a lot can happen in these next few games. Not a lot of games left. So where will the Penguins sit heading into April? Will they fall off a cliff in April? I certainly hope not. And I know Penguins fans, you certainly hope not, given where they are right now. And I know they have been struggling in the shootout, but we have some pretty promising rookies like Ben Kindle for one. Avery Hayes also has been pretty good. I also like what I'm seeing with Justin Brazeau, just to name a few. So we will see where they stand heading into that point. That program will be taking place on April 3rd. Actually, we're going to move it to April 23rd, 2020, one of the very last Thursdays of the month, as the month of April ends on April 3rd. That will set us up for quite a day in sports, including the Cleveland Guardians coming to town for the Toronto Blue Jays. And of course, if you love WWE, you're going to want to tune in to Friday Night SmackDown. That's when our next show will be, and it will drop within the evening time. It may be recorded earlier in the day, but it will drop at an evening time. Stay tuned to find out when that will be. All right, folks. That's what's coming up on Weekly in Sports in April. Looking forward to that. Stay tuned for updates if anything changes. Oh, and of course, we will have our monthly shoutouts for podcasts that you can get involved with as well. All right, rounding it out here, what do we have in store for the very first week of play? It's time for the MLB regular season lineup countdown. The regular season begins on Wednesday, March 25th, 2026 at 8:05 Eastern, and it will feature Max Fried and the New York Yankees against Logan Webb and the San Francisco Giants. First pitch, 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:05 p.m. Central. Thursday, we got a big one. We got a couple of good games coming up. But before we do, Netflix alert, Netflix alert, Netflix alert, Netflix alert. Yes, you heard me correctly. For the first time, fans of Major League Baseball will be able to watch a baseball game on Netflix. And I'm not joking. This will kick off a series of Netflix games, but you could find out all about that by going to an article about the broadcasts and what the Netflix broadcasts will be about and who will be on them as to which games will be on as well. All right, over to Thursday. And that is the very first Thursday of the season, packed with a couple of games, including some afternoon games. And speaking of first-time broadcasts, NBC's had a little bit of experience doing this kind of thing. But welcome to Sunday Night Baseball on NBC. That's for Sunday. We'll get to that in a second. How about a little Thursday Night Baseball from LA, the Dodgers hosting the Diamondbacks, the Mariners, and the Guardians at 10 p.m. Eastern. From Seattle, that one is the wraparound of the slate. At 8:30 p.m. Eastern, it's the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers from LA. And that one you can see on NBC and Peacock. Another one you can see on NBC and Peacock is one of the earlier games, and that features the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Mets from Queens at Citi Field. First pitch, 1 p.m. Eastern. In the 2 p.m. slate, the Milwaukee Brewers host the Chicago White Sox at 2:10 p.m. East. Later at 2:20, the Chicago Cubs host the Washington Nationals. At 3:05. The Baltimore Orioles take on the Minnesota Twins from Baltimore at Oriole Park. And in the 4 p.m. slate at 4:15, we've got the Rangers at the Phillies, Cardinals hosting the Rays, Tigers visiting the Padres, Red Sox visiting the Rays, Astros hosting the Angels to round it out. And we want to talk about big days. Well, I guess the weekend might be a bigger day, but Friday night, it begins, Blue Jay fans. Friday night, it begins. Blue Jays, Athletics, 7:07 p.m. Eastern. The season begins at 7:07 p.m. Eastern, Friday next week. On Sportsnet and NBC Sacramento. The series with the Giants and the Yankees continues at 4:35 p.m. Eastern. That will open up the day. Then 10 minutes after 7 p.m. Following Athletics and Blue Jays, we got the Rockies and the Marlins. The Royals and the Braves at 7. Astros taking on the Angels at 8:15. That game will be part of Friday Night Baseball. Yep, you heard me. Friday Night Baseball is back on Apple TV Plus. And it begins on the second day of the Astros-Angels series. Then at 9:40 p.m., the Tigers and Padres go back to battle. Dodgers taking on the Diamondbacks, this time at 10 p.m. Eastern. Guardians and the Mariners at 9. And then on Saturday, the series with the Athletics and the Blue Jays continues. The series with the Rays and Cardinals continues. Nationals Cubs, that series continues, as does the series with the Orioles and the Twins, Rangers and the Phillies, Red Sox, Reds, Pirates, Mets, Rockies, Marlins, Astros, Angels, White Sox, Brewers, Braves, Royals, Yankees, Giants, Padres, Tigers, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and rounding out the night with Guardians and Mariners. Lots of action coming up. And on Sunday, 1 p.m., we got a lot of games. Athletics and Blue Jays at 1:37 p.m. Eastern. At 1:35 p.m., Twins and Orioles, Rangers and the Phillies at 1:40 p.m. But at 1:35, we've got Royals, Braves, Orioles, Twins, Rangers, Phillies. Also at 1:40, the Rockies take on the Marlins. Then at 2 p.m., we've got Angels and Astros, White Sox and Brewers, both games at 2:10 p.m. Eastern. At 2:15, we got Cardinals and the Rays. And at 2:20, Nationals, Cubs. Then on Peacock at 7:20 p.m. Eastern, part of Sunday Night Baseball, or rather Peacock Baseball I should say. It is the Guardians and the Mariners. Wow, that's going to be a good one. And that, folks, will round it out because Monday, some series end and some series have new series beginning. And with that said, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Weekly in Sports. We will be back with you for another episode of Weekly in Sports next month, working at, I should say, looking at the first month and a half in baseball between every team competing at the MLB level. Plus, even though the World Baseball Classic has come and gone, we want to issue, as we close out, a congratulations to Team Venezuela, who won the 2026 World Baseball Classic. So congratulations to Venezuela. They defeated Team USA, and a congratulations shout out to Venezuelan Andres Jimenez of the Toronto Blue Jays. He is a WBC champion. Congratulations, Andres. Looking forward to seeing what the season has in store for the Blue Jays this year. And that will just about wrap it up here. That is going to do it for this episode of Weekly in Sports, the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening / watching the show. It really means a lot to me, and I hope to see you all again real soon. My name is Scott McGregor, and this is Weekly in Sports. We will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.